all the things that we used to do manual, and a lot of thought process of doing that. You used to recruit engineers for doing all these different phases of things. I think all these things have changed, right? Right now we have a bunch of JavaScript framework, CSS framework. From design perspective, a lot of focus on UX, a lot of things on the mobile first design approaches, right? And even the kind of applications that we are actually trying to build, trying to think is even changed. We're talking, I think, about Zoom, right? If you go 6 years behind, hardly anybody was on Zoom or things like that people are using. Today we're thinking very proactive, like how to build similar kind of application using a lot of AI into it, right? So the entire thought process, entire thing has really changed, and it's affected each of us in a personal and a professional life, in a daily life journey.
Welcome everyone. Hope you're keeping well and staying safe. This is Hafsanjum and I am working as a community executive at Recro, wherein we are working towards building an exclusive community for developers to help you get connected with like-minded people, build your network and grow professionally. So those who don't know about what Recro is, it is a developer-focused platform helping developers to meet the right opportunity by connecting them with fast-growing startups such as CureFit, Udaan, Swiggy, Dunzo, etc. So welcome to Recro Talks again. And today we are having our very first panel discussion of 2023. And the topic for today is prepping for 2023, what's ahead for front-end developers. We have an amazing panel today, and let's start with our moderator and also Rishabh, who's going to lead our session today. Rishabh Jain is a full-stack software engineer. He is also a part of Recro. He has 10 plus years of experience in the industry, proficient in dashboard and analytics applications. Rishabh, you can go ahead and say hi to the audience.
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to be here. Looking forward to today's productive discussion.
Yeah, we are very glad to have you, Rishabh. And next up, we have Tapas Adhikre. He's a senior manager at Micro Focus. Tapas is a technology blogger, speaker, YouTuber, and also a mentor. He has published over 250 articles sharing his decade-long knowledge and experience. He is a passionate contributor and maintainer to open source projects. Tapas, I think you can go and say hi to the audience.
Hey, hello everyone. I'm very glad to be here. Want to kind of learn and share the next 1 hour. Thank you.
Yeah. And next up, we have Apurv Khare. He's a computer scientist at Adobe. He's also a web developer with 6+ years of experience in building large-scale applications. He taught web development and mentored over hundreds of students and made them a better developer. He also writes quotes on the blog, whatthecode.academy. I think I'll just drop the links in the chat of Zoom and also LinkedIn. Apurv, you can just go ahead and say hi to the audience.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Recro, for inviting me. I'm glad to be part of the panel.
Yeah, so as we are very glad to have you guys. And last but not the least, we have Kiran Kumar Ambati. He's also been a speaker with Recro before, and we have him again. And people loved his webinar last time we had, and we are really glad to have him on board. And coming to Kiran Kumar, he is a front-end developer who has 6+ years of experience and working with front-end technologies. He's currently working as a front-end engineer at Atlassian. He has equal passion for teaching and mentoring. He delivers over 10+ meetups and has taught thousands of people on various front-end technologies. Kiran, you can go ahead and say hi to the audience.
Yep. Hello, everyone. Couldn't wait to talk to you guys. So let's get started, I guess.
Yeah. So before we get started, guys, I have a few announcements to make. And I would like to say to the live audience of LinkedIn that if you have any questions, do not hesitate to post them in the live LinkedIn chat. I'll quickly go and review that and make sure that your questions are answered by the speakers. And that is going to be taken up at the end of the session. So tune in for the entire session so that we have a quick, amazing Q&A at the end of the session, right? And for the people who are joining in Zoom, please make sure that you are dropping your questions in the Q&A tab. And the normal chat is just for the normal chat. So we might miss out on the questions if you are posting the questions in the normal chat. So please make sure that your questions are in the Q&A tab of the Zoom that you're seeing on your screen, right? And we also have audience from YouTube. Please post your questions on YouTube. And if any of your audience, if any of the audience wants to share the link to their friends, family, or any colleagues, we are also going live on our Recro's LinkedIn and YouTube channel. So you can quickly share the live of the session today, and we'll be good to go. Okay, I think we're good to go, Rishabh, and Rishabh is going to moderate and lead the session. And let's get started.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Hey everyone, and thanks for all the panelists to join. First of all, let's start with, let's say, the first question, right? This is directed to you first. So I want to know how the front-end development has changed over the past decade, right? And how has the industry is been affected? For example, we could say, how was the transition between vanilla jQuery to, let's say, any framework or any obsolete libraries that we have? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, great question. So in a word, it's like the change is vast and changes towards a lot of positive directions, right? If I go back 10 years and kind of building something for a client, hardly I'll be thinking about things like UX. Like I have to really think about user experience. Maybe some boxes somewhere people will execute their things. I'll be happy with that. Then mobile use cases were probably obsolete. Like, it was not there at all. Like we were never thinking about mobile use cases. There are a lot of boilerplate, lot of scaffolding, lot of things that we had to do manually, like, the project structure, the build structure, how things will deliver at the final, as a final delivery, all the things that we used to do manual, and a lot of thought process of doing that. We used to recruit engineers for doing all these different phases of things. I think all these things have changed, right? Right now we have a bunch of JavaScript framework, CSS framework. From design perspective, a lot of focus on UX, a lot of things on the mobile first design approaches, right? And even the kind of applications that we are actually trying to build, trying to think is even changed. We're talking, I think, about Zoom, right? If you go 6 years behind, hardly anybody was on Zoom or things like that people are using. Today we're thinking very proactive, like how to build similar kind of application using a lot of AI into it, right? So the entire thought process, entire thing has really changed, and it's affected each of us in a personal and a professional life, in a daily life journey. So yeah, the change is really for good.
I agree, right? We used to do FTP uploads.
Yes,
stuff like that, right? Okay, Kiran Kumar, what are your thoughts on the same?
Yeah, so when I think of the change happened over the decade, so first thing that reminds me is when I started coding in JS or something, I remember I was using JS only for form validations. So from there, when the Google Maps came, I think that's a turning point for JS. So that's when people came to know that, okay, JS is not just for form validations, it can do something more. And from there, then we got frameworks, and now we are getting ton of frameworks. And yeah, now the world is totally different from where I started. But yeah, as Tapas said, it's for good and it's for much better internet. And we are seeing if you see the security or the performance, so we are a ton of ahead if you look back the last decade. So yeah, things are changing very fast, but it's for good. And yeah, front-end develop. And I used to hear from people that front-end developers won't have much work and backend used to do all the stuff. So that used to be the notion earlier, but now, yeah, I think things have a lot changed, and yeah, even front-end has a lot of exciting stuff happening. Yeah.
Agreed. Who even thought about security back then?
Yeah,
especially for
exactly. Even there were not very active hackers. That point of time, people are probably still exploring things. Today, kids are smart. But having said all of this, Rishabh, I still love jQuery. I like that effortless of updating DOM any point of time. Yeah, still good.
Yeah. Apur, what do you think about the roles that front-end developers have been affected with, right? And what has become essential?
So, like coming from the past, basically, earlier it was like everything used to be happening on the server side, right? The JS, the HTML was written over there and used to pass it over. Now things have changed. Now, the role is not just to create the CSS, HTML, and That it's the earlier it was like the logic side would be the backend part, and then the basically business logic would be the backend part, and the just the UI part would be front end. But now it's not there.
Right.
Now front end has its own thing. We have Node, right? Node most probably is being used as a middle layer. Even in Adobe, we use it as a middle layer. Like it's not directly we just consume the service. We consume lots of services. We transform the data. We massage the data according to our needs based on the front end, and then we pass it through. So that's another layer added. Earlier directly to a server and it's sending the HTML. Now there are lots of different layers coming between
Right.
the front end and the back end. And the like earlier, no one used to care about so much about performance or like how much time does it take, because earlier it was just plain HTML. Now it's like
Correct.
JS, you have JavaScript, we have a lot of other stuff, and we have to make HTTP requests directly from the browser, right? We use fetch, we
Right.
use the different things. So it's not like directly server is fetching it from database and passing it on. So there are lots of things that we need to take care of. And one of the things that you earlier mentioned, security. Like there are lots of other things. Like we have lots of fields. Mostly, if we talk about security, it's like about things where the user can enter things which you don't expect him to enter. So lots of
Okay.
things are exposed. So yeah, in that way, we have a lot of roles and responsibilities added now.
Yeah, I agree. So things have changed drastically, right? So one example, I know Tabbas loves jQuery, he just mentioned it, right? But the change between jQuery to, let's say, something like a React or Angular, right? You can't even compare the drastic
Yeah.
change that has actually happened,
Yeah.
right? And Tapas, jQuery has been obsolete. I have to say
Yeah,
this.
jQuery can be obsolete, but still a good percentage of application running on production is on
Yeah.
jQuery. Okay, don't have to, don't
Yeah, I
forget.
agree. I mean, you are absolutely correct, right? And the thing is, for developers who have used jQuery, like people like you, like us, who has more than 7, 8 years of experience, they know how JavaScript was, right? They
Yes,
know how
yes,
hard it
definitely.
was, right?
Yes.
Someone who learned React just now and he has no idea about jQuery or, let's say, plain vanilla JavaScript, he has
Exactly.
no idea how to do DOM manipulation the way we do. So I think that's something still important. Everyone should at least know the basics on how vanilla JavaScript works, right? For front-end role, I think the way React works or the way Angular works is okay. Everyone should know that. That's good and well, but you don't have to solve everything with those frameworks. It's at the end of the day, it's JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to
Yeah.
figure out complex hooks or complex logic to do something in React when you do it in a simple function with JavaScript.
Agreed.
Right? It's
Agree.
like there is a saying, it's a React way. It's useless if it takes 10 lines of code, but you can already do in one.
Yeah.
There are lots of
Doesn't make
videos on
sense.
YouTube how to do this in React, how to do this. I'm like, this is JavaScript thing. There's not specific to React.
Yeah,
Like,
this is
why
not
are people
React.
searching for React? React.
Yeah.
How do I update an object in React? No, you don't. You update it in
You,
JavaScript.
yeah, you update it in JavaScript. That's a very fundamental concept.
Yeah, you have to know this. Okay, moving on to the next question, right? Kiran, what do you think no code, low code platforms have been doing, and how would they change everything? What do you think?
Okay, that's very interesting question, and it's very apt now more than ever because of ChatGPT and how Microsoft is into ChatGPT. So all the stuff, and I have seen even there are some VS Code extensions that are integrating ChatGPT into
Yeah,
code.
there are.
So
I mean, yeah, we could come to AI
yeah.
next.
So
Right?
what I feel is, see, I think the low code, no code platforms and developers will coexist. That's what my belief is.
Okay.
Because see, at the end of the day, there are some developers who are developing that no code, low code. So it's not that. So we need developers for that. And also, what I believe is for websites. So it's not easy to do that low code, no code, because to some extent you can develop websites. Because in my
Right.
college, when I was in my college around 2013 or 14, so I've seen in one website where I took almost 1 week to build a website, and my friend did that in 20 seconds, and I was like shocked. And it was fully
Yeah.
responsive, and it was back like 7 to 8 years back. Then I was like, no, there's no way front-end developers are going to survive. And today I'm still working as a front-end developer. So yeah, we do have tools from very past, and yeah, as I said, we coexist. That's what I believe in. There might be some roles which get affected, but it can't affect all the roles. And we still have more roles coming up
Okay.
because someone has to maintain that code generated by that no code low code platform, and someone has to build it. So the roles are going to be
Yeah.
different roles, not the just routine tasks will be done. So there are no roles that will be doing the routine tasks, but
Correct.
that will be some more creative and interesting stuff. So I think we are going to have new roles coming up. Just that people are going to move there. That's what I think of.
Agree. Apur, what do you think about this?
Yeah, so I agree with that. So basically, low code, no code tools, they are good for building websites which are like blogs, or which are like, let's say even a SaaS tool also can be built. But we
Right.
all can relate to this, that when I say that the product managers don't exactly have clear idea of what we want to build. If they will give clear requirements, then the tool will build, right? We know
Yeah.
how much change we get, how much change we get from the designers, how much change we get from the product manager, and not just that, wherever we are building tools. So talking from my experience, it's not just okay just to be built in React. The existing code is there in PHP, the existing code is there in JSQL. We have to accommodate to that. Okay, it's not just like okay, it's just to create a React app plain. We'll just do create React app and we'll create anything. The existing
Right.
tool is there. Like I have worked like in projects where it's where the part of the UI is in GWT, Google Web Toolkit, and I'm integrating React into it. Right. So the contextual part of the development is never going to
Right.
go. Like you, those no-code tools can give us some HTML, CSS ready, some JavaScript ready for some sorting or some filtering and all those stuff. But the contextual knowledge that we require to build, that's never going to get replaced. I totally truly believe that.
I agree, right? So that's actually exactly the point that you both have said. Ki when you actually figure out the way you want to do things, only a human can do that at this point, right? There are business logics that you can implement because you can think of it and how it would affect. Right? You can do counter strategies like product for product managers, like this won't work, right? And you can do
Yeah.
that input, right?
Correct.
Your no code tool or let's say low code tool won't help you do that.
He doesn't know
Yeah.
the complexity that we have, like what is
Yeah.
getting integrated. It's not just the
Yeah.
UI, a lot of other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
also
agree.
there always comes a limitation. So with no code, low code. So I was using in my previous orgs at some point, and see if someone says, okay, you have a message and put an icon saying it's a error message, you can't do that because there are always limitations with those tools. You need to adjust as per tool, and it won't adjust as per
Yes.
our
Yeah.
request.
Yeah. That's very true.
So that's well and good. Now let's talk about someone who can actually counter question you. What about chatbots? Chat, your favorite topic, Kiran. But Tapas, I want to hear your opinion on this first, right? So we just basically we just made a point key no code, low code tools won't really counter question you, but something like chat GPT does counter question you. What do you do
Yes.
about those?
Yeah, and Chat GPT or things like that that will be coming in the near future are pretty powerful, right? It's
Right.
they really open a new door for all developers, consumers, users, down the line, right? I was watching a debate on NDTP about Chat GPT. I think it was yesterday, day before, where a teacher and somebody else was like debating like how to control things on Chat GPT stuff. But coming to
Right.
developers or the front-end developers, I think it's like another opportunity, right? The opportunity of how you are going to use that tool, opportunity of like what you envision of building on top of it. If you see like there are people already burning ideas like what they're going to build next with Chat GPT APIs in the back, right? Their idea is not about, okay, I am going to do what is the quick sort, give me the algorithm of it and I'll use that code. That's not the purpose of ChatGPT, boss. It's not. You are going to fail if you are going to use ChatGPT that way. Think about how you're going to utilize its power to build what's coming next, right? So you already having some amount of caliber as a web developer or as a front-end developer because your foundation and base is there. You have the capability of thinking wild in terms of your idea. Now there is somebody who is coming to fulfill those dreams, fulfill the idea. Take it in that way. Make a combination. You build something more wild and more great for the user community over there. So that's why I see the combination is going to be really good, but the usage has to be controlled on certain institution. It may not be that control required in our case or where we're programming and things like that, but things like exams, maybe interviews where people have a chance of taking disadvantages. So that's why some control has to be there. Otherwise, it's a very good combination.
I agree. ChatGPT is something, I mean, you could use it to optimize your code. You could use it to
Yes.
ask problems that you don't have the answer for. Right.
Yep.
You could tell it, ki, I want this specific, like, let's say you have a object where you want to grab some item at nth item, right? And people do it with loops. People do it with different methods, right? But you could ask him what's the optimized method to do this, and it would tell you it's recursion, and it will probably
Yes.
tell you the code for it.
Yeah.
Right? So that's there. Kiran, you were super excited about this. I want to hear your opinion as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was very much interested when I saw this ChatGPT and whole stuff happening around, and I was seeing that its CEO mentioned in one week or something after it got released, they were seeing 1 million hits. So
Right.
yeah, then I was exploring this. Yeah, so as Tapas mentioned, so it's going to enhance. So if we know how exactly we are going to use that, then we are going to have ton of ideas from that, and we can definitely use that as a assistant for us and try to get more knowledge, and then we can use that to build on our stuff. So it's definitely going to help us in a way. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, for the no code, low code, so some roles are going to get obsolete, which gives birth to some other roles. So something like now the
Right.
company started hiring people for prompter roles. So those are the people who are going to do the chat GPT thing, which I felt very, I mean, I was very impressed by that, because now we are trying to get more roles that suits our needs and trying to do that stuff. But yeah, it's interesting space. But we have to keep our hats on and start playing around with those tools or platforms, whatever we get, and try to keep
Agree.
ourselves update, because yeah, that's how
Agree.
we keep learning and growing.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think for next few years, at least couple of years, it's gonna make the repeated jobs obsolete and not technically do the logical things.
Right.
It's not smart enough yet, and
Right.
yet being the keyword here.
Yeah. So I want to give one small example. When you
Yeah.
said that not smart enough, actually it is smart enough, but so don't get me wrong. But my brother was doing one experiment with ChatGPT. So he asked a question that, see, Mohan's mother. So my brother's name is Mohan.
Right.
So Mohan's mother has 3 children. One first children name is Kiran, and one more children name is Kalyani. What's the third children name? So it should ideally answer Mohan.
Answer Mohan. Yeah.
Yeah, but it said, no, you didn't mention that in the question, so I can't answer it. Then my brother like, no, that's in the question itself. Then it okay, it told Mohan. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is
Yeah.
still that learning curve for that also, but
Yeah.
it is
Exactly.
really going to catch up. I feel, I
Exactly.
believe.
That's why a couple of years only. So Tapas mentioned that new things will emerge. Apur, what do you think those new things are? Like, what is your opinion on those?
So in new things in terms of frameworks, are you asking, or in terms of the AI?
In terms of future, right?
Yeah,
Like, how does the future look like for us, and
sure.
how would it shape the industry?
Got it. So I am excited about a couple of things that are there in future that are coming, like which are making thinking of even developer experience while we make the applications, because that's the least thought when companies take any framework or stuff. So
Right.
one of them is Next.js, which anyone is using. I think not
Yeah.
at work maybe, but I have played with it. But and another thing is Quick. Quick.js is something that
Correct.
I'm very much excited about. So I even attended a front-end master's workshop by the creator of Quick itself. So where he has fundamentally changed how we think about writing code. So where he
Yeah,
introduced
it's
the
crazy.
concept of resumability, basically when we do server-side rendering, it's like 2 times it happens. I have written a detailed blog about it. People can read about it. But in short, like they have fundamentally changed how frameworks work. So this is something which excites me, because when we talk about frameworks like React, Angular, Svelte, Vue, all of them are similar. I won't say same; they are definitely different, but they are just similar. Like they
Correct.
are doing SSR, CSR, and all those stuff. But Quick is something which is fundamentally different. I'm very much excited about it. Now, whether the market picks it up or not, that depends on luck. Also, it's not just that it's
Agree.
something fundamentally, because the company has to agree. They will have to see whether it's what do you say, migratable, that they have to see that, right?
Right.
Can in the existing application can be attached to it or not. So that whether it will pick up or not, that's a different thing, but I see a very good potential in that. and it has a good developer experience. A lot of things that we do in React, right? Let's say we have used callback, we have used memo, all those stuff. That is by default in that, like, because it's understood. You don't want to unnecessarily do re-renders, and you don't want to have performance issues, which is
Correct.
by default taken care of quick. So those are some of the things that I see that, okay, there I look up to in the future.
Yeah, just to give context to everyone, right? When we talk about JS and resumability, right, for our audience, so the concept is that it will not download any JavaScript upfront, and it will only do that when you, let's say, need it. When you click a button and it has to do some actions, that's where it actually downloads your code. So your initial load time is almost nothing, and that's the concept QuickJS is trying to bring. And yes, adoption is hard because this just changes your entire thinking process of how you want to do things. And companies, it may be better, but if it's not profitable, probably companies won't pick it up because it requires a big change, right? So yeah, that's something that's there. For example, React is trying to solve this re-rendering problem now. They launched sort of a demo video or a demo conference a couple of years ago when they tried to do memoization everywhere by default, right?
Yeah.
They were trying to build a compiler that way. So they are trying to solve these problems, which in QuickJS don't even exist, right? So that's a fundamentally new way to think about front end. So yeah, that's that. Anything, Kiran or Tapas, you want to comment on this in brief?
No, I think that the topic of Quick is excellent. That could be a separate panel discussion altogether, the complete ideology change, right? And even if it is picked up by market or not, I think every front-end developer should have a habit of looking into some of this upcoming thing, because then only they will be able to differentiate. Now we are talking about what was 10 years before, and now we're trying to compare. We have a golden opportunity sitting today, like what is today and how we should think about tomorrow, right?
Correct.
Even if it is not picked up and not. So I think apart from technology, I think Apu covered it very well. I think the VR is one of the area, the virtual reality area, those
Right.
VR areas, that is something like people are really trying to break into, but somehow the penetration is not that high. At least if you see India market and things like that,
Yeah.
people are not that much diving into. But what I see is like maybe if we are having the same panel discussion after 5 years, we'll be discussing a lot about the VR, AR kind of areas. Today, we're talking about a lot about AI, right? 5 years back, it was not there at all. So I think that is something that front-end developers has to get into, because there are a lot about experience, and that experience that somebody has to create, the framework, technology support, they have to understand all those, gears and all, like how to fit into how things work. They need to understand. So I think this is something that look forward to. I'm personally looking forward to the next few years.
Yeah. How about you, Kiran?
Yeah, as Tapas mentioned, so when he said VR, so I was thinking maybe when we have this similar discussion after 5 to 10 years, maybe we'll be talking in a VR. So VR room. so yeah, so the space is evolving a lot. So the first time when I saw Gatsby, I still remember that. So I was hovering over the links and started downloading stuff even before I clicked.
Yeah.
And that felt magical for me, because after that, the page was, I mean, it's already there. Whatever you want in the next navigation, it's already there when I hovered on that link or button. So I know exactly when I click it, it is going to load. So that was the beautiful thing which I saw. And now it's evolving a lot, like the way Next.js is bringing things up, or how Apur mentioned QuickJS. So it's evolving a lot and yeah, we are going to see a lot of new stuff happening around the front end part. So I am pretty excited more than ever. So yeah, looking forward for those things.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned preloading basically, right? When you hover over it and things get loaded.
Right.
And Gatsby came, I mean, I wouldn't say it came up with it, but they perfectly implemented it, right? And now it's trying, everyone is trying to catch up. Everyone is trying to build that, right? And for example, Remix did a complete dynamic change when you data load things, right? And now Next.js is trying to cope up. Next.js 13 is basically trying to cover what Remix already did. And since Next.js is already super popular, they are sort of getting the edge that they are trying to do something new. Technically.
Yeah, I agree. The Remix had even did something different, but the Next.js team was so much it has so much open source stuff that okay, they were like,
Yeah.
okay, we'll build it now. We'll build it in a couple of releases, and then they build it. Now they are like almost similar sort of thing.
They're
Yeah.
almost stable. They're using server-side components, which
Yeah.
is fundamentally different from Remix, but they are trying to achieve same thing, I think.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to something controversial for Tapas.
Me. Okay.
So Tapas, what do you think about all these no-code, low-code AI tools, right? We discussed how groundbreaking they are, right? But how would they affect our already existing workforce? What about layoffs that are happening? Do you think they are part of it?
Not may not be directly, but there are definitely some amount of influence and there will be some amount of influence also tomorrow. I'll give you a story basically for this. If I go a few years back, I had an uncle, and people from India know that there is a bank called SBI, and the uncle was doing some kind of clerical job in SBI, and then when SBI introduced computer. And my uncle was a person who was completely opposite of that. The computer cannot come inside the bank because I'm going to lose my job. Okay. My uncle retired just few months back. He didn't lose his job. He retired. Okay. So the analogy I'm trying to give, a person always be a bit, reluctant towards any kind of change that is coming. And they will be feeling that, okay, something very advanced coming, whether that's going to take away of what the thing that I'm doing. But at the other hand, we need to look into like that the work that I'm doing, it could be so monotonous that the whatever is coming is going to solve my job so easily that I'll get more and more room to do something else. Right. So if that is the mindset, I think with AI, your low code, no code, all these things coming, this is what is happening, right? This is what is going to happen. Today, in my office, the person who is like InfoDev, who is to write the documentation, now that person with a low code, no code tool will be able to build a complete doc site, a documentation website. And you don't need a lot of logic in that. You just need some MDX file, do it, and things will be, done with that, right?
Correct.
Her job or his job didn't go away. He or she learned a new way to solve the problem. Probably he or she will be able to do something else, more meaningfully. So that's how I see it. Now, coming to the layoff portion is not really directly, influenced by this low code, no code. There are also a lot of other aspects. Maybe the company is in loss. There is a recession. There is a political aspect. There are war happening. There are multiple things that is there behind this layoff. My thought process over here is like, the layoffs are happening. Layoffs will be there in future also. Nobody is going to stop them. Only way that you can actually fight layoff, irrespective of your experience, age, demographic, anything, upskilling. If you stay relevant to what is happening like around the world, your chances of getting into your next job, maybe getting ready for your next layoff, is much faster than later. That's how I see it. I've been gone through extreme amount of company mergers in my life. Just happened 3 days back. One, Micro Focus is now open text. So have seen things happening. That's what my suggestion will be.
That's right. I think to summarize your statement, right? Upskill is the word.
Upskill. Yes, definitely.
Kiran, let's bring you to the controversy.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I forgot the question. First part.
So what are the layoffs? What do you think about the layoffs that we are having, and how much does this low code, no code AI is affecting this? Or what are the other factors you think are there?
Yeah. So as Tapas perfectly put in, so I believe layoffs are not a direct replication of this, because we are going through a lot of things. So we are fighting COVID, then we are fighting inflation, then we have war. And so there are a lot of macroeconomy happening more than what an individual can do, because I have seen people laid off who are there with some of the companies for 15 years. I mean, so they are in a very good position. They are very skilled, but they got laid off. So it has nothing to do with their personal knowledge or something. There can be some cases, but there can be some other things. See, it's sometimes people are unfortunate and they be part of that. They have to be part of that. So yeah, as Tapas mentioned, upskilling is the only way forward. It's for anyone. So forget about layoffs, even to survive in any company and to go through that. So moving away in that ladder of
progression.
Yes, in the progression. So it's definitely you need to always upskill. So as a SC, so you just do stuff. But as a senior engineer, so you need to understand and you need to get work. As a staff, you need to coordinate with multiple projects. So you need to get that skill so that we progress in that way. So
agree.
yeah, that is the only way. Upskilling is the only way wherein we can progress and we can survive. See, you cannot survive a layoff because we don't know how it is going to happen. But the good
Yeah.
thing is if you are ready, so you the next organization is ready to hire you. So there are always orgs which are looking for good people. So yeah, avoiding a layoff, yeah, not in our hands, but getting into the next job is in our hands. So we always have to work for that.
I agree to you actually completely. Everyone, especially us developers, have to realize if you are getting laid off, there are like more companies than developers who are hiring. You just have to have right skills for them, right? So be prepared, keep up with the new tech, and that's I think the one of the most important things. Keep up with the new tech. It may not be your instant use thing that you're doing every let's say tomorrow when you learned it, but it will come in handy when you think about new concepts. It will teach you how to innovate in your existing project, right? So that's I think something is super important that we have. Apur, what do you think about what has not changed,
Correct.
right? And what would not change in all this, right? Code would pop up, new frameworks would come up, AI would like probably dominate in few years, right? What do you think will not change?
Things that will not change are the core fundamentals that we have. I mean, whenever we are building applications, we have to write HTML, we have to write good semantic HTML, we have to write
Right,
proper CSS. Okay, we need to know because in CSS also lots of things do keep adding. So there will be something today if you write CSS, after a couple of months there is something a better way of writing it. But CSS will be there, right? So
correct,
HTML, CSS, JavaScript for front end, like there can be a lot of intermediate language which convert eventually to JavaScript, like this GW that I was talking about. Then there can be different other language like Dart is one of
right,
those which eventually do convert to JavaScript. JavaScript also is not going anywhere. So these are in terms of languages. Now in terms of fundamentals, how HTTP works, how we do caching in that, like so not
correct,
server side but the client side caching, how we set cookies, right? How do
correct,
we store the secrets, right? In front end, like in the browser side, the web storage part, all those
correct,
part. These fundamentals are not going to change. How do we design the system, right? Those are not going to change, right? Be it any framework, like how let's say if you're trying to design something like a Google page, like where you're doing type ahead, the principle of that, like how do you debounce, how do you handle that, that will not change. The
correct,
way you write the code, okay, that might change depending on the framework. It might become easier, like you have to like less number of lines, but the fundamental will not change, right? Then how to handle the backend APIs, right? How to do calls and all this stuff. So fundamentals of how do you do code, right? Even if you do with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, just these three things, or with any of the frameworks, those are not going to change. And the way you write the code, the way it might be it might have a better developer experience, it might have a better performance in some ways, but you also, yeah, for performance also is one of the things, right? How to do
correct.
prefetching, preloading, all those things we need to take care. So those core fundamentals will not change, but yeah, everything else, yeah.
You're absolutely correct. So I think what people should like people as developers, doesn't matter if you're a front end, back end, even if you're someone who is trying to be full stack, because I don't think anyone is full stack. So whatever you want to be, right? When you know your concepts, you're good to go. It doesn't matter what language you're working with. It doesn't matter what stack you're working with, right? When you know caching as a concept, you can do it in any language. It really doesn't matter. When you know, let's say throttling debounce as a concept, they don't change over languages. You may write it in one way or another, but the concept itself does not change, right? And the application of the concept is mostly same as well, right? So you just have to understand how these things work, how these things actually affect, and you're good to go. Language is, and a lot of times you'll see when we developers learn first language, it's like that's all I can do. When you learn second, okay, now I can do something more. When you learn third, it's like I can do anything now, any language. It doesn't even matter because you have learned the skill to learn a language, and you can probably do it in an afternoon, right?
Correct.
Syntax learning can be done super easily. So it's not about the language or the stack. Bring any 1 hour crash course, and you know the stack now, right? You'll get proficient at it with the time. I agree. But to know the stack, it doesn't take more than an hour, right? So yeah, just keep up with the concepts, I guess. That's one thing. But if you don't know the concept again, then that 1 hour would be probably days or weeks for you. So focus on concepts and not focus on stack itself.
Yep.
Just to add to it, like people sometimes directly don't react. Directly, they
Yeah.
don't know anything about front end. They directly don't react. They don't know which part of this is JavaScript, which part of this is React. So,
Correct.
and when they learn Angular, they're like, okay, this was there in that. Okay, I was confused. This is Angular part, is React part, is JavaScript. I don't know. So always learn from the basics, and basics should be important. Like, doesn't matter which framework you learn.
Yeah, I agree. So I know like when Angular come up with like Angular 2, like they have gates, they had middlewares, all those things are like, okay, you can implement gates in Angular. So that this is how gates work. No, gates is a concept. It's been there in backend for decades, right? So gates are there. You can implement it in any language, any framework. You can implement like a component-based gate in React, right? You can implement a middleware using that. Just do that. It doesn't, like Angular doesn't give you anything more, or React doesn't give you anything less. It's all about they are giving you let's say they've built it already, right? You install a package, you have it already.
Yeah.
So that's there. Okay, so this is gonna be my last question, then we'll open it up for Q&A, and I'm gonna change it up and ask every one of you to comment on this, right? Take this as your final comment as well. So what I want to know is, what do you think would be the final challenges coming? What would be the biggest challenges that are coming for front-end developers specifically? Okay. How do you think they should evolve? How do you think they should keep up? And should they be scared of anything?
Okay,
Tapas, let's
I
start
can.
with you.
Yeah, I can go for scared part. Yeah. Okay. So I think that one of the challenges that all of us will face in the coming days is to keep ourselves up to so many things that will be available in front of us. The challenge is already we are within, right? Today, somebody starting, they are probably hearing about those three things like React, Angular, Vue. In this session, they heard about Quick. Somewhere they'll hear about SolidJS. Things will come, right? So this is the thing that it will be more and more in the coming days that will be there. So that is the challenge number one. Second thing is maybe that what I feel personally is like the designer space, the people who are good into the UX, they do a lot of fancy stuff, and the developer comes in and implement that. So somewhere the designer and the developer space has to merge in the coming years. That's why I was also talking about this VR, AR kind of thing, because developer really has to understand the design concept to work for it in future. So how they are going to cope up to that? Because right now I have seen many developers mindset. It was with me also. The moment CSS and HTML comes, is somebody else's job. My job is JavaScript, right? So how do I kind of break that and kind of getting into dealing with this one? You spoke about security, right, in the beginning, right? And many of us really, while writing code, how much conscious are we while writing code that I am able to take care of certain things where there won't be any excesses part, or all those things won't happen. Of course, framework takes care of to certain extent, but you also have to code DOM purify and something like that you have to do, in many cases. So we have to be more proactive on doing that, because the things are going to go more open. There are more opportunities of that kind of users to deal with your application, expose things that you are not actually guarding. So I think those are the challenges. And of course, I think evolving and the emerging things would be like, be innovative. That's what I'll say. Like when you are going about learning something, doing certain kind of code, just don't think about the syntax, which like concept is greater than technology and syntax. Just don't be into that. Be innovative on your solutions. Be innovative on what exactly the customer and the user demand. Put yourself in the shoe of them, and then we'll be able to understand like how to factor in those aspects to your stuff. So I think those are the things that we need to build in going forward.
I agree. Apur, what do you think about this? What would be your comments?
Yep. So for challenges, what I would say is one thing that even currently we'll be facing is that when you're working in a big project, like mostly you will be working on an existing project. I'm not talking about a startup which is starting from a seed. So there's an existing project. So there are a lot of things come new, a lot of better ways of doing things like Quick or anything. So the first instinct of us is to go to our manager or go to us and see, let's do this way, let's do it this way, let's do it this way. But you need to understand from the company perspective that they are not going to just overnight stop new features and move on to migration. So you need to understand how you can achieve the things that, let's say, Quick is doing or anything doing. Underneath, they are using the concepts, the core concepts, right? How are they doing prefetching? How are they doing preloading? Go to their code. Okay, if you are not able to migrate, so those are current challenges that I see. That okay, this happened with me also earlier, right? When I used to be
Right.
a very young developer, I used to feel, okay, why are we doing this old way? Why are we doing React is crap, let's use Next.js, like all those kind of things. But it's not, see, when you think about the company, it's like there's a lot of code and they will not waste time in migration. They have to ship features. So if you can do
Agreed.
it incrementally, we do it. And let's say if you know something that can be done as a parallel. Let's say for unit test, that's something that you can do. Let's say currently you're doing in Jest, but you see that there's wheat test. There's something coming. So if
Yeah.
you can transport that, like you can migrate those and increase the build time. So basically, whenever we run build, we run the unit tests and all those stuff. So try to do those micro things. Those are the challenges that I see that we can actually do something about. Okay, and in terms of fears that that we can have is like, again, this chat GPT and stuff, one should not ignore those. The reason that I'm telling is, let's say currently your front end team consists of 9 members or 10 members.
Right.
Going forward with ChatGPT, the productivity will increase. The company will not need 9 members. They need only
Agreed.
5 members who can do that job. So don't say, okay, ChatGPT is nothing will happen to my job. That's always there. Or GitHub, sorry, Copilot is there. So nothing. Don't do like that. Learn those stuff. You need to add your knowledge. And next time when you are being asked to use ChatGPT or Copilot, you should not be like, okay, I don't know, I learn it. You can do that, but you should be like, okay, now people are thinking, okay, we'll be using this more productive ways of doing things. So less and less people are required. Company will
Right.
not spend same amount of money again, right? They know, okay, now things can be done in less time. So always keep up to date with what is there. Be aware of what is going on. That's the thing.
Apur's just told us layoffs are coming.
No, it's again, layoffs are going to recessions, but they might hire less. That's the one
Yeah.
thing. They might hire less. That's it. When they're getting a new team, instead of
Agreed.
10 developers, they
I
might
agree.
hire 6.
Kiran, what do you think?
Yeah. So we are speaking about challenges, right?
Right.
As Apur was mentioning, so for example, to give some context, I'm into Jira team now, and Jira is used by 200,000 people, not people, customers. So if
Right.
someone has to migrate that into some other framework, it is going to take at least 4 to 5 years, and we are going to have no productivity. So there are no features, new features we are going
That
to
are
ship
new.
to
Yeah.
customers. So it's always very difficult for companies to move from one framework to other, because it has a lot of implicit things for that. So as a developer, what we need to have is the culture of reading the code. So at least 70 to
Right.
80% of your career is going to be reading code most of the time, because writing code, so it's very less chance that we are going to write a code from scratch. So it's more often than not, we are going to get into a company or a project which is already there, and we should have that habit of reading code. So that is a
Correct.
primary. And secondary, nowadays, yeah, sadly, people are being put into frameworks directly instead of going through JS, and we cannot so it's not the fault of even people, because it can be coaching centers, or it's how companies are putting people into projects. So they have to ramp themselves up and show productivity, right? So
Right.
but at the same time, I advise everyone to learn the fundamentals. Like, so when we think of front end, see, at the end of the day, it's HTML, CSS, and JS. Whatever frameworks we are using, whatever CSS frameworks or JS frameworks, finally the principles are same. And thirdly, I would advise everyone to go through programming fundamentals, because if not, then we are going to have ton of challenges ahead. The more we grow, the more challenging it becomes. So one has to be very fundamental. And so I want to give you a shout out to my professor, Joshi Sripad. So he was the one who taught me in college that, okay, you need to treat your computer like a child. It doesn't know anything. You need to tell each and every step. So when you're doing some logic, explain every step to it. Like, even it doesn't know what is I++. You need to tell, okay, increment I to go to next step, so that your loop doesn't become infinite.
Correct.
So we should always have that thought process that your computer is a child which doesn't know anything, and you are going to feed all the instructions very clearly. I mean, that is when you develop this habit of hand running your code. So you understand what is happening even before you run your code. I think
Agreed.
these are the things which are very essential. If not, then it is going to be very hard to keep up with all the frameworks and keep up with all the logical stuff you are going to do. So yeah, these are some stuff which
Agree.
I think everyone should have in mind and have the habit of cultivating this, so that they love enjoying coding. That's the motto which I am trying to say. Everyone should enjoy coding, not for money. They should have that passion for coding.
I mean, I agree. And people, if you enjoy money, then enjoy coding for money. I'm not opposed to that.
I mean,
Yeah,
Point
money.
is to enjoy.
Yeah, I would say money follows. So you just
Yeah,
love coding and
that's
try
a
to build
great point.
something. Yeah, money automatically follows.
Yeah. So that's a great point. Actually, I agree. And to everyone, I'll just answer this question first. For everyone who is scared, right? Don't be. People were scared when calculator came in. People were scared when machines came in. People were scared when computer itself came in. Imagine if computer wasn't there, your jobs wouldn't be there, right? Your work wouldn't be there, right? So scarcity is something that would come up every time something new comes up, right? I think just learn how to flow with it, learn how to use it to make yourself better, right? Google Copilot came in and there was a fuss about, sorry, GitHub Copilot came in and there was a fuss about it's going to take everyone's job. It can write code and everything, right? I use it to ease my work. I use it to do things that I was doing in 2 hours and convert them into 30 minutes, right? I'm saving time using that AI, which everyone is scared of. And everyone can do that. Not recommended for juniors. Disclaimer upfront. You wouldn't learn otherwise. So it's not for the you, right? And yes, I'm being blunt about this given the reason because you are at a phase where you have to learn, you have to do the code by hand. You have to have a habit of doing it, right? So it's not for you. Don't you dare touch it.
Yeah, just to add to it, like when we see good GitHub pilot code, we know okay, this is not the good, not the clean way we can adapt to it. But as a junior, if you see it, you will just use it. So it's
Yeah,
correct.
agreed.
Don't directly jump to GitHub pilot when you're senior in your junior years.
Yeah.
Do it when you're
So,
senior years.
Yeah,
agreed.
agree.
Don't touch it because you're gonna end up writing code which is shit. Sorry for my word, but that's how I can basically explain it. There is no other way, right? You won't understand what it writes, and if you don't understand what anything writes, that includes Stack Overflow, that includes GitHub Copilot, that includes every tool. Don't implement it.
Yeah,
Don't
I
do
was
it.
going to say the same. When you are searching for an issue on Stack Overflow, don't just copy paste the code. Understand what it's doing. The better way, if you want, type it and then try to understand what exactly is the doing. Even
Agreed.
yeah, I had this developer in my previous org, a staff engineer, and he was. I literally learned a lot from his code reviews. So he used to question me everything. Why did you do this step? And that's when I started questioning myself even before he asked that, okay, why exactly I'm doing this step? Because I used to get in code reviews that, okay, so you did this thing, do we actually need it? I think it's not needed. Then when I revisit back, it's not needed actually.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah, so we should always keep in mind that if you're putting one character there, you should know why you're putting. Is it
absolutely.
doing something there, or you are just putting because
Yeah,
maybe you need to put it there? So we should have that thing, and we'll automatically learn. So when you're getting into that nitty-gritty details, you'll automatically understand things.
agree.
Yeah,
And
I had a
yeah,
trainer in my early age. He used to tell this very often, like copy pasting code is the best thing when you know what you're copying.
I
So
agree.
he used to tell that when there was no Copilot, no such AI, things people are generating code, but he used to tell like we each other copy pasting when you know like what you're copying. You might introduce a bug if you don't know what you're copying, right? So yeah.
Exactly. And one more thing, right? I see this habit in especially the junior developers when they think if it's 50 lines, it's good. If you can do it in one, do it in one.
Hmm.
Right?
Yeah, good point.
That's
Good
very
point.
important.
Yes.
As long as it's understandable, yeah, you can do
Yes.
it.
Yeah, just don't shorten your name to A is equal to B. Don't do that.
Yeah.
But if it can be done in 1 line or 2 line, do it in 1 or 2 line. No one's gonna judge you. You are not a typist who is gonna judge on number of words that you write.
Right.
If it's shorter, if it's understandable, it's good.
Yeah. Just focus on readability and
Yeah,
just
you're
use-
good to go.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid of longer names either.
Yeah.
Trust me, I
It's
have like
okay if you
20,
have a
25, 30 character longer names I use in
Ah,
code.
I
Yeah,
agree.
when I
It's
used to
okay.
work on Java, like Java class names, I used to give like so big, it's so fancy. It's fine.
Right.
I saw a question. Somebody asked about the variable name in the question panel.
Yeah.
I think the question was is like the person is not very good at giving the variable name and all these things. I think so. Again, from the same trainer that I had, he used to tell like looking into our code is like, will you really put your children's name like this A, B, C, D, I, J, K, L, something like that, one fine day? If that is the case, you can go ahead with, keeping the name like that. How do you keep your children's name, when they are born? So that gave a kind of mental state is like, okay, right. So if I'm creating a user, something I should start with user and then give that what exactly it is. So
Right.
don't be afraid of a kind of, it is
Longer
going
name,
too big or things like that. Don't go that IJKLM. That doesn't work well. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't, right? And the easiest way to name something is just name it whatever you're doing with it, whatever your
Right.
intent is.
So
Right?
your
It
code
doesn't
should
matter if it's longer.
your code should be self-documented. So when you're reading the code, you should understand, okay, so you have, when I say function sum or sum of two numbers, so I know my function is going to do sum of two numbers, and the two numbers cannot be x and y. It has to be number one and number two. Then it's going to
Yeah,
return something. So when you have that flow, so you'll automatically understand, okay, your function is doing this and it takes this and it is going to return this. So your code should be very self-documented, and it should be very easy to read and understand your code rather than running the code and seeing what is output. Okay, then figuring out, okay, I'm getting this and this and it is doing this. So instead of that, your code should be easily understandable.
agreed. One final point. Sorry. Right. I actually forgot. Okay.
So I just like to add to the code review part that Kiran said. So giving from personal experience. So we had one code reviewer. So everyone used to not assign him the review because once let's say other people will give two comments, he will himself give 20 to 30 comments. And I always used to assign him because I wanted to know what am I missing in my code, because I used to learn a lot. And also, same time, code giving comments is also an art. He used to explain, this is the thing, this is the reason, this is the link to an article, this is the link to a web dev or anything. And he will explain very well that, okay, this is why you should do this way. So my advice to juniors would be like, don't run away from code reviewers, especially people who are giving too many comments, because sometimes people are like, oh my man, too much comments is there, I have to do rework and all those stuff. Don't run from them. Don't try to find shortcuts of code reviews. Address every comments. That's the thing. You learn more.
I
Right.
agree.
Yeah,
agree.
you people won't believe, but in my first PR, in my previous org, that developer, I had 10 lines of code and I had 30 comments on that PR. And some PRs, it was around 50 comments. But now today I admire him because he taught me a lot in the time I had been there. So shout out to Chip. I know he
Yeah.
won't be seeing this, but yeah.
Yeah, like just Kiran said, right? I just wanted to, it's okay to have comments.
Right.
You have to understand, you're not being judged on having comments. When someone, he's your senior, he's supposed to teach you, right?
Yeah.
In your peer reviews.
We should not take comments to heart. So
Yeah.
we should take only as a
Don't take
learning
personally.
things. Yes.
Yes.
Because
yes.
everyone is trying to maintain a code base which is of high quality. So it's everyone's responsibility to correct
To do
people
that,
when they
yeah.
are doing something wrong. So
Right.
nothing as a criticism, it's just that it's to make the code base better and to make someone better. So that's the
Agreed.
only reason why code reviews are that way. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll close it with one last point on code reviews, which I think is important. Which is don't use abbreviations. You would know what that you mean, but the next person who's looking at it wouldn't know what you mean. Right? Or someone who just comes to the org who is a junior who wouldn't know what you mean. There are abbreviations that are specific to your org. He wouldn't understand what you mean. Down the line, 10 months, 1 year, he would be like, what am I doing?
I didn't know what LGTM means for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's, I think that should summarize, and that should put your code at a higher quality than what it was if you apply these few things, right? And I think I think we are already on time, so we'll spend few minutes answering some questions that we have. Right. Okay, let me find them.
Yeah. Rishabh, I guess we have questions in the Q&A tab. So we have almost 21 questions in total.
Yep.
So I think audience has a lot of questions to ask. I think we can redirect few questions to each one of our speaker who could answer.
Right. We'll do that.
Yeah.
So let's see what we can pick up. Right. Okay. So I think we've already answered this question, but I want Tapas you to just briefly explain this. The question is, there are many front-end frameworks. What do you think require the more time to learn, and why do you think, which one do you think we should learn?
Yeah, I think we discussed this already, but just one line answer is learn fundamentals. Be good at fundamentals.
Yes.
That's what we need. We don't want you to be master on framework. It will demand you to use it when the time comes. But if you are not master on the fundamentals, the framework is going to kill you. You won't be able to find that memory leak somewhere, and it'll be like spending a lot of hours. So yeah,
Correct.
fundamental.
Correct. The second question is actually along the same lines, just a different phrasing, which is, what are the skills that you must have as a front-end dev, and with the content and the ocean of content out there? I think your answer is sort of similar. Your fundamentals. That's the skill you need. Once you master them, you know everything. Spend your time in your fundamentals. Once you do that, everything would become super easy to learn.
Yeah, one more thing I want to add over here is like, even it's a fundamental thing, but not directed to programming, is like some of the skills that you can build up over the period of time. For example, debugging, right? How do you approach debugging an application and web application? Like it can come with tools, but with all the tools and things, like there are some amount of psychology, some amount of pattern, some amount of way of addressing things, breaking that particular issue. So those things you need to be skillful at, and more skillful at, you will be identifying the issues much faster, right? So that will be another thing. Right?
And I would like to address this, that there is an ocean of amount of content. So I would say go to some authentic website to learn. It would be boring. The thing that I'm going to suggest is going to be boring, but go to MDN documentation. Go to web.dev website that is written by Google engineers. Go to authentic source of information for content, because there is, as he has mentioned, ocean amount of content. So go to authentic information. That would be always right. Because for a long time I used to think that okay, triple equals to means like they will convert and they'll, so it was like coercion and like a lot of things that you, when you go to the source of the thing, you will understand better. So yeah, learn from authentic websites.
Agreed. So I think we eased this question's pain a little bit. The question is, what do you think is the future of front end? Should we continue with the same domain, or can we?
Yeah, I can answer this.
Yeah,
So
Hiren, please go.
when I started, so yeah, even I was in this dilemma because people were jumping from data science, ML, then backend. So I know people who are working on a lot of domains, but I was someone who's was very into front end. I thought I will stick to front end and see what happens. And I'm happy that I stick to front end and didn't deviate from there, because one good thing is I was able to explore a lot of things inside front end. So I got the depth which I was looking for, and at the same time I didn't ignore backend or DevOps. I still had that knowledge, but I never missed the chance of learning more about front end. So what I would say is front end is going to be there for at least for next 5 to 10 years. I think it is going to be there. So one thing is front end is the face of your application. So it is going to be there, but it's just how we are going to build it might differ. So you need to keep up with that, explore more and try to have the depth in that domain. And at the same time, have the knowledge of breadth. So they call it as a T-shape, where you need to have that exposure on all the things, but you should be very good at one of that. So that's the T-shape.
Agreed.
Always have T-shape learning. Choose one domain. I won't say it should be front end, back end, ML, data science. It can be anything, but choose one domain, be an expert in that. At the same time, keep your eyes open and on other domains and just have that knowledge. I think that would take us a long way.
Agreed. Okay.
Hey,
So this
Rishabh,
is yeah.
before you go along, I have another commitment which I need to drop
Yeah,
off. So
Tapas.
extremely sorry for that, but just want to say like it was a fabulous session and I wanted to answer many of the upcoming questions. So if anybody wants to kind of connect and want to know my thought, just have a ping away. Just ping me on LinkedIn and Twitter, wherever possible. I'll definitely help you out. So thanks
Yeah.
again to all of you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thanks a lot.
much.
Thank you so much for Tapas for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
bye-bye.
And for the audience, I'm going to drop Tapa's LinkedIn handle in the chat, and you can just quickly go and give him a follow over there. Yes,
Right.
I think we can continue now.
Yeah. So this question that we have, we've discussed this, so I'll be brief about this one. Sahil says, I'm very bad at declaring variable function names. People in my team keep saying that code is not readable. How can we improve? Sahil, we already commented on this. We spent significant 10-15 minutes on the topic. So just go through, rewind this when the video comes out. You'll see a lot of patterns to improve your names. One thing I could say for you is just name your function whatever its intended purpose is. That's all. Right? Don't be afraid of bigger names. So I think this question is for you, Kiran. What can we expect in interview rounds? Amazon, Atlassian, someone who has 1 year of experience.
Yeah. So one thing, what I'm going to say might be wrong because I am not aware of the process for 1 year. But usually, so I have taken multiple interviews in my previous org or all the organizations. So what I can say is for someone with 1 year of experience, it's very hard to judge you on your working skill because we expect you still as a fresher because till 2 years, what I believe is they are still learning and they are trying to get specialized into something. So you'll be more grilled on your problem solving rather than your domain knowledge. At least that's what I believe in. So that you need to have good problem solving skills. At the same time, you need to know the basics. So if you when someone says in the interview that they are good into front end, so I would at least expect them to know the basics. So not the depth, but it's just okay, do they actually know some parts, like how do they display something, or how do CSS work, or how do so there are the basic stuff. So inter rounds can be different, but for a experience, it's a different ball game. So if someone is experienced of 3 to 4 years, there the actual thing starts where someone expects you to be very particular into that domain and try to see, okay, does they know Clojure, how it works, or
Right.
method chaining, all the stuff. So yeah, it's very tough to answer, and it's very depends on role and company. But for a 1 year experience, I think problem solving is a prime skill because it's very initial career point, right? But Apur, you can also add if you have points.
Yeah, so I would like don't approach like we are targeting for Amazon, how will be its interview,
Right.
how Atlassian, how it's Adobe, how it's interview. Just know what you need to learn as a front end developer, and then go for interviews for anywhere. Like there will be some specific round that some company might be taking. That's a different thing. But otherwise, what you need to learn doesn't change based company to company.
Right.
What he said, right, closure and all those stuff, that is common for everyone, right? So don't keep in mind, okay, for Amazon, I have to learn this, or Google, I have to learn this, or Microsoft, I have to learn this. The rounds might change, but the knowledge is the same thing. And also, it depends on interview to interviewer.
Right.
Today, as an interviewer, his thoughts are like that. Some other interviewer in Atlassian may have some other thoughts. So, learn everything, but that you know that is required for a front end engineer. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. For seniors, I would like to add at this point, just to throw you off your existing learning curve, right? When you approach for someone who is gonna go, let's say SGE3 or at a higher level where you're gonna supposed to manage a team technically, right? So people could ask you a question, build React dev tools, build Redux dev tools. You don't have to build the exact thing, but you have to know how it works. You have to know how would you approach building it, right? So there would be interviews, they're gonna throw you off your rail. They're gonna just crap on all your preparation and throw you a question that you have never seen, right? Because sometimes they just come up with the question on the spot, right? And that especially happens with seniors. So again, fundamentals remain, your problem solving remain. They are not looking for you to build a React dev tool. They are looking for your skills. They're looking for how would you tackle this impossible question to be solved in 1 hour,
Right.
right? So that's the important part when you go for a senior role. And for juniors, just learn, guys. You don't know how much you don't know.
Yeah.
So just learn. Pick up everything that comes in your way. So next question, Apur, we've had it, but let's give a brief on it. What is low code, no code tools are like? How are CRMs and website tools are gonna make our life easier or harder? How would this affect us?
Got it. Yeah, to summarize quickly, I would say that learn them to do it to your advantage. Learn them to make your own self productive. Don't be afraid of them. As one of the example that Rishabh gave, that he uses GitHub Copilot, right? So use it on to your own advantage. Don't be afraid of it. But at the same time, if you are a junior developer, if you're using something which is existing, understand what it is. Before, again, that Tapas mentioned same thing, that if you are using something, you should know what you are using. Don't just copy paste because it works. Everything works. I can write the same code in 10 lines, I can write in 2 lines, I can write in 5 lines. But what is a clean way of doing it? What is a readable way of doing it? What is an optimized way of doing it? You should know. So yeah, use those things to your advantage. ChatGPT and low code tools.
Right. Okay. I would like you to pick up based on this question, whoever is more comfortable. What are micro front ends architecture and how would they help us in flexibility? Kiran or Apur?
So I would just say I'm still figuring out what exactly is microfront because it's very contextual. It was given like it was. I think first it came from ThoughtWorks, I believe. So
Yes.
I've read to their blogs and I've gone through this, and even I have implemented through this webpack. There is a module federation. I've done that, but when we talk to different people about micro frontends, I don't see a common way of implementing it, the common understanding.
Right.
So still myself, I'm figuring out what does it actually mean in a common way, because everyone has their own understanding or every company uses it their own way. Yeah, so yeah, Kiran, you can add to it.
Yeah. So that's exactly why I didn't answer in the first go, because it's very tough to answer and it's very opinionated, and also it's very I mean, I believe not many companies are implementing micro frontends as of now, because the reason is the main idea of micro frontend is to give the flexibility of developing multiple pages in multiple frameworks or whatever of the choice, and then you can plug them together. So that's the main idea. At least that's what I know from the ThoughtWorks initial documents. So yeah, I worked with one client who were using that. Their website was in React, but there were some pages which were in Vue, and you can integrate them. So in a very large application, so someone like just say if you have a website where it provides the health information, for example, so you have a ton of things for ton of symptoms, so there it makes sense because you have a lot of data and you have a lot of pages, and if you're trying to build multiple things from multiple teams, so you might end up with different frameworks. But more often than not, if your org is small and if you have limited pages, I think micro frontend might not coming to picture. But again, it's very hard to say because yeah.
Right. So that is actually exactly why I based it. I didn't point anyone to answer this question because it's so contextual, right? But to put it in brief, micro frontends are essentially a way you can distribute your code over to different teams, right?
Right.
That's a very basic of it. But the way your company uses it could be drastically different to for everyone's context. Someone could use single SP or someone could use module federations. Both are no micro frontend architectures, but they are extremely different. As a concept, the flexibility comes where one team's code would not affect another team's code. But again, that is not true. When you actually go technically, that doesn't happen. Your dependencies could collide. You could have a JavaScript code written because everything is on the same page. Your JavaScript could affect other pages or everything else, right? So it's not the hype that it used. Like it's really not up to the hype that it gets. It's still a lot to evolve. So yeah, but the question is the flexibility. So yeah, it does give you the flexibility, but it does brings a lot of caveats as well, right? Okay, so let's go to our next question. I want Apur to answer this. Recessions are high, layoffs are coming. What do you think? Apur already thinks layoffs are coming, so we
You
know.
know, it's they're already there. They're already there, right,
Yeah.
left, right, and center. Like,
Yeah, I
and I
agree.
mean, this is very even controversial to answer also. But see, because of market scenarios, because of the the stock market, if you're involved in that, or there are war
Yeah,
going on, and all those stuff, those things we cannot control. Okay, the only thing we can control is being capable. So let's say if you get laid off, sometimes it's not at all your fault. Like, sometimes it's
Right.
a performance reason, but sometimes it's your entire department because it's not profitable. And currently, the
agreed.
company needs profitable departments. They'll lay it off. That's why the example like 15 years people, 20 years experience people. Why would they fire loyal people, right? Because they were in a department which is like not profitable to them as of now, and they needed to cut the costs. So one thing, don't take it personally. You might feel bad, like when it happens. Even if it would happen to me, I would feel bad. But don't take it personally. Take time some to rejuvenate. Take time some to do some your own thing, and then prepare and do the next job. So always be ready for it. It's not like when you're okay, Abhi, for next year I'm not thinking to switch, so I'm not prepare or I'll not just keep studying new stuff. I for every month I learn something new or I refresh something that I don't know, right? So that should happen. That always keep learning habit has to there if you want to survive in this industry, not just for layoff for anything. Because tomorrow there is no layoff, there is no market situation. Still, you could be layoff. But so if you are
Right.
prepared for it, it will be not affecting you. So you cannot control layoffs. That's completely out of your control. What you can control is to get hired in the next company.
Kiran, do you want to add something very briefly here?
Yeah. So layoffs are always been there in some part or the other. They were always there, but the scale at which we are seeing is bit scary. I agree to that, and it's very unfortunate being part of that and have to go through all that. But yeah, as Apur mentioned, so the only way is we need to keep ourselves ready. And yeah, most often than not, it's not our fault. If it is in a very small scale, if they're trying to remove people, if they're putting them into this improvement plan and then removing that, it's a different story. But if someone
Right.
is removed, if they already been there with the org for so long, if they are capable, but if they are removed, so it's so yeah, what I'm trying to say is most often than not, it's not in our control. So it depends on the macro economy, and companies has to do that. Even they have to
Right.
grow thin so that they can have more profits on board. So it's not their fault,
Agree.
it's not our fault, it's the timing, it's which is bad. But yeah, we have to keep ourselves ready and then just make ourselves ready for the next job.
I
And
agree.
yeah, our layoffs still continue.
So layoffs are gonna
I
be
don't know.
there. They were there.
Yeah,
So just don't be afraid. Upskill yourself.
right.
Right. So I'm skipping questions which are contextually we've already answered. Right. So for everyone's context, just go through the video. You'll see a lot of these questions already answered. This one we didn't tackle exactly. I mean, we answered it in some way, which is how does DSA help in front end and back end? Does it actually help? I mean, I added, does it actually help? Just to abbreviate the question.
Yeah, I can answer this
Yeah, please
because
go ahead.
yeah, I was very vocal from the beginning. So my answer can be controversial. Please don't hit the comments bashing me. But from the beginning, I was not much into DS because I know in front end, so you get very less chance to work with that kind of structures which you deal in the back end. So I was little, so so okay, I'll answer in short because we are already running so late.
Yeah, please do.
So what I'm trying to say is you need some DS because if you see your DOM structure, it's a tree. So you
Correct.
need, when you're traversing your DOM, so you're actually traversing a tree. So at least you should know graph, trees, normal manipulation with your strings and objects. So those things are very mandatory. So unless you're trying for big companies, big tech companies, most companies nowadays are focusing more into front end. So if you are entering for big companies as an experienced person, so they are skipping DSA part primarily, except graph and trees. So those are kind of embedded into front end. So you should be knowing them. You should be knowing recursion. But apart from that, if you are primarily getting into front end domain, and if you are not targeting the big tech, if you're targeting good companies, then I think these things should be suffice, because at least those are suffice to me. I was able to make through. So yeah.
So I think my answer would be a little more controversial because I have some knows this. I've answered it in the web earlier as well over the internet. I don't think DSA helps whatsoever in actual programming when you're at a beginner level, right? What it helps you is learning how to think.
Right.
So we have another question related to this. He's using arrays, map stacks, but he never used something like graphs or heaps. Actually, you are using this. You just don't realize it.
Right.
The thing is, for everyone, for all of our listeners, right? DOM is a tree structure, like Kiran just mentioned, right? So you are using it. You just don't realize it. That's all. And you don't then actually have to update it. You don't have to learn it specifically. You just go with the flow. For starters, it wouldn't matter if you know all of this. So yeah, if you're afraid of it, don't be. You're already using it. Just understand it in this way. You already know this. It's just that you haven't put a name to it.
Even I would like to give one sentence of controversy. Like, if you are applying for companies, yes, you need to know DSA. If you are doing it for day-to-day life, no, you don't need. That's it.
Yeah.
Very one
A lot of
sentence.
controversy in this question.
Yeah. And one thing, so when I hear DSA, what I hear is lead code. So in that perspective, you don't have to do lead code. At least I can say get understanding of how data structures work. That is required because eventually you're going to touch them as we are speaking. So when you're traversing a DOM tree, so yeah, you should know how BFS or DFS works. So then implicitly you're going to know how graph works and how recursion works. So these things comes, but you don't have to be a lead code and just spend more time on lead code to crack companies. I think at least I didn't find it much useful in my journey. So I was so my thought process was very simple. So instead of putting that effort on lead code, if I put that same effort on front end technology, I'd be a lot more better. So that was the approach
Totally
which I
agree.
took, and it worked for me. So I don't know if it works for everyone, but it surely worked for me.
I think it works for everyone. I'm the same.
Yeah.
So okay, so just another question on the same lines. I'll answer this one. Do we have to know space complexity, time complexity? In one word, no. You don't. It wouldn't matter unless your application is so slow that it's harder to interact with. And when it's that slow, it's usually not the time or space complexity problem. It's usually something else altogether. So yeah, if you wanna go do competitive programming, feel free to explore these concepts. But you wanna do front-end programming in terms of in companies, no, you wouldn't need this. Right. I'm sorry, I know we are on time crunch, and I know both of your answers are exactly the same.
Yep. Just know the concepts. So that's what I'm trying to say. Just know the concepts. You will know when to use them automatically.
Correct. Right. Okay. So this one's nice. So for a 9th class student, teachers are teaching him machine learning. What do he do?
I mean,
for 9th class machine learning.
Yeah. So if it is in your curriculum, learn it. I mean, if it is in your curriculum, then you have to learn it. There is no other way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what the sentence is trying to say is that 9th class students pose as a machine learning engineer. What to do? I mean, you can't do anything about it. They will pose like even people who are in college, they pose as full stack developer. And as Rishabh said, I don't agree if someone is a full stack developer. You are a front end engineer with somewhat okay backend skill, or backend engineer somewhat okay front end skill. So like, yeah, you can't do anything about people who are posing as.
Yeah, it's fine. So if it is not affecting you, it's fine.
Correct.
But yeah, one thing is the more you grow, right? So you'll automatically know there are a lot of things you don't know. So that's what is going to make you humble as you grow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Unless it is affecting you in some way, then it's totally fine. Let them do that. I mean,
yeah, I like to throw this statement out to a lot of my devs. Sometimes they take offense of it, but it's actually true, which is you are not good enough to know how bad you are.
Exactly.
Right.
So, okay. What do we do when NPM libraries don't really have a documentation?
Just play with it, like just use their functions. Just do dot if they are TypeScript. If they are written TypeScript, just do dot. If they are not written TypeScript, go to the game, see what functions they are exporting. try to play around, use console log, I use debugger. Because if there's no
I agree.
documentation, you cannot do anything. You have to go into code, or you just
Yeah.
do dot and see what functions they're actually.
Yeah. I think it's a good practice to explore, if you can, the code of the library that you are using. I know it's not possible for huge libraries, but they usually have documentation. If you are doing going with some smaller libraries, just try to explore their code. They usually have like 10, 20 files maximum, right? What is the scope for Blazor and .NET MUI?
I have
No
not-
comment.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't think any of us have any comment on this, because scope is something that no one can define. Right. Do you think backend jobs are the lowest risk of affected by AI? I don't think any job has low or high risk. Everyone is equally affected. If it can do front end, it can do backend.
Yeah.
Do you have any different comment?
No.
Front end is as complex as that. Earlier it was not, but
Yeah,
currently
these
it
days
is.
it's
So
almost same. So, okay, last question. As there are many ways to solve one problem, how can we meet the expectation of an interviewer if given an interview at Atlassian? Kiran is your name.
Yeah.
Last year, but lost the interview because interviewer was rigid with his solution.
See, I'll tell what I believe in. So irrespective of company or the thing, so interview is always comes with implicit bit of luck. Because even if how much ever you prepared,
Right.
even if you're so sure, you might see some question which you never saw. It happened to me in multiple interviews. Or sometimes, as you mentioned, the expectation of the solution can be one, and you're answering it rightly in a different way, but interviewer not going to accept. So that is not in our hands. So you will definitely get a better company, and in that interview you're going to pass. So if not this company, one company, in next company you're going to automatically get it, or in the next try, maybe for Atlassian you're going to do it because you're going to have a different interviewer. But yeah, as I mentioned, it's always comes with this bit of luck which plays a role. So yeah, some things we cannot help. Right.
yeah, I totally agree that it interview depends on the luck of who the interviewer is, how his
Right.
mood is, right?
Right.
How good or bad he is with dealing with interviews. Because lots of people train people to become a good engineers, but no one trains for interviews. Like people need to just, they are just given some what do you say, shadow, reverse shadow, and then okay, good to go for interviews. But that's I believe people should be trained. Companies should train people to do interviews properly. I remember one interview where I gave 98% answers correct. 2%, one question would be wrong. And I was rejected. I was like, I wrote the mail to that company that, okay, you wasted my time, not yours. I don't know about your time, but you definitely wasted my time because interview went well, right? And
Right.
just that because of that, interview did not like that 2% answer that I did not, and it was not even so big of thing. And you don't know, like, it depends on interview. So yeah. It's based on luck.
I agree. I would like to add one of my experience with this as well, right? To give you context, when you interview for a company who is either small or who just does not have enough resources, someone if you're, let's say, 7-8 years of experience, someone would probably is taking your interview who is like 2 years or 1 year of experience. A lot of times they don't even know how to judge your skills, right? So it's all luck in that case, right? And I have been in that situation. I've been rejected, and the next time I requested them to just give me feedbacks on the same, and they were kind enough to arrange another interviewer with me. They brought in someone who was 20 years of experience for the interview, and yes, I got selected. But the point is, sometimes it's just not in your hands. Sometimes you just are dealt with bad cards, right? So it's not really all about you. So don't be afraid. Keep on giving interviews. Every interview will teach you something.
Yeah. And I'm sorry you have to go through that for Atlassian. But maybe next time you'll crack it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just add this last question. This wasn't in question, but I did saw this in chat, which is nice one. What does upscale mean? I'll be brief about this one. Upscale doesn't mean anything specific. All it means is that you keep on learning. You don't have to be rigid in what upscale mean. Don't have to go to a definition. Just keep on learning. Whatever you see comes up when you go ahead, try when explore videos. Like a lot of these tech channels have become new sources for new frameworks, right? So whenever you look at it, play around with the framework. And I'll give you an easiest way to do this. Every developer should have a portfolio website. Whenever a new framework comes in, build your portfolio website in that framework. That's all. You don't have to search for project. You don't have to go on the internet and think about what do I want to build new. You don't have to do that. Just go ahead, build your portfolio website. It's super simple. There is not a lot of functionality, but you will get a hang of the framework.
Yeah, I agree to that. I agree to that. So same, I have the same approach. So I have I'm a Marvel fan, so I just create a simple Marvel website which has a grid and which has a detailed page and sorting and filtering. Whenever something new comes, I develop it in that language. That's
Right.
all. Same APIs, I just develop it in that language. And you don't have to know all the nitty-gritties of that language. When we say learn, just explore.
Yes.
I don't know too much about Vue, Svelte, Solid, but I've explored them. I can code in them. So that's what, just keep knowing what's coming.
Exactly. You wouldn't hit with a new thing. Like, what do I do now? You already have it hands-on with it. It may have changed over the versions, but you still know how it actually works in terms of basics, right? So you wouldn't be hit with that. Kiran, what do you think?
Yeah. So one thing which I would like to add is why you need upskill, because when you change a company, so you change framework also sometimes. Because I was working with React, but when I changed my company, then I had to work in Vue, so which was a complete
Right.
change. So if someone is very rigid with one framework and if they are didn't upskill, then it will be very tough for them to move to a different framework. And nowadays many companies are having internal frameworks, so that's when the knowledge you have on different frameworks or the fundamentals which comes handy. So when you are into a internal framework, it is completely new, and even if you do work there for some time and if you come out, then you are going to have a different knowledge, and
Right.
it might not be useful outside. So how can you be interact with the outside world is to keep upskilling yourself, just learn stuff what is happening in around that scope, and just keep you updated with all the trends.
Right. I agree. I think that's all the questions we would take today.
Yes. So
over to
before
you.
that, one question from live guys,
Okay.
which I thought was not discussed. So Akshay is asking, must read blogs or videos from your personal view that you feel every front-end engineer must know. So that will be the last question.
I
Just
think
go to
Apurva covered
web.dev.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
please.
go to web.dev and Mozilla Firefox documentation. Yeah. Best authentic resources. Even
agree.
I write blog, but I would not recommend. I mean, if you want authentic information, go there. Definitely read my blog.
No,
Definitely.
I wouldn't
The
call
first
your
thing.
information not authentic.
Yeah. And if
So
someone can spend money or if someone can get their company sponsor them, so I have been following Front End Masters, which is a
Definitely.
very good resource,
Definitely.
and the lectures were taught by great people in great companies and sometimes the authors themselves.
Most of
So
them are OSS contributors, so they know what they're talking.
right.
yeah, so if someone can get their company sponsor them or if they can use this tuition reimbursement, I think that is a good uh, spend. So that would be a good expense
Yes.
for sure, because I have been using that for last 3 to 4 years. Initially it was with my money, then I started taking expense from company, but it's definitely worth it, I can say that.
I would add that even if your company is not sponsoring, just go for it. Trust me.
Mhm.
That's the only subscription that I would give from my pocket, whether or
Yes.
not my company use or not. That's the only. It is like 20, 30K, but still, it's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. If you are
Yes.
a
Right.
front-end engineer. Yeah.
So I think I agree to the same point, but I would say I wouldn't just scope them to web.dev. I would say just follow the people who build stuff. For
Correct.
example,
OSS, yeah.
Dave or Matt, these people who have built React or who have built Angular,
Even
Ken
can't see
Dodge,
dot.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
Read his blog. Amazing.
just follow these guys. They have some amazing content out there because they are actually building it. So they have the thought process of why they build it the way they build it, right? Even if you think that it's wrong, there is probably some background story to it.
Hmm.
Right? So just go ahead, follow these people. You'll learn a lot.
Yeah.
And come to meetups or talks like this, so that you,
Yeah.
so
Talk to us.
these are the places where I get to learn. So I never know QuickJS until Apur said that. So maybe after going back, I'll see, okay, what is QuickJS? So that's one good area which I feel, this networking, right? So you'll automatically get to know these small things. just go and work on that, and you'll automatically learn stuff around that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Someone asked what the platform was. I think it's Front-End Masters.
Front-End Masters.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit costly for us. I think it's costly, definitely
Yeah, it's
costly.
20-30K around,
Yeah, it's like 40K a month, right? $40 a month or $400 a year. I
Yeah.
just looked it up.
Yeah. So I think that was the last question, and that brings us to the end of this wonderful panel discussion. I would like to thank each one of you for joining us. Hope you learned something new from today's session. We will look forward for your post on your LinkedIn. And do not forget to tag Recro, tag Rishabh, Tapas, Kiran, Apurv, and me in your post. And we'll be very happy to see your learnings and takeaways from the session. And also thank you so much, Rishabh, Kiran, Apurv, and also Tapas, who is is not with us right now. Thank you for taking time from hectic schedule, and thank you for sharing your knowledge, making the discussion a worthwhile learning and sticking to the end with. And it was awesome having you, and thank you once again for everyone. Yeah. So before we end the session, I have few announcements that I want to make. So we have created a community for developers called Rebase on Discord. So to join a close community of JavaScript developers to unleash your true potential, it is for someone who has 1+ years of experience. So you can quickly go interact and join the Discord community. And like Kiran said, the more you learn is with the interacting and meetups and connecting with the fellow developers. We have Rishabh, who is also part of the community, and we have other folks who are also experts and who would help you with a lot of stuff. So I'm just dropping the link in the chat. You can just go ahead and join the community and see what's happening in the community. Yeah. And we have made a LinkedIn post about this session to do comments or learning on this post, and tell which was the favorite part of the learning for today, and what did you like the most, and what's something that you would have a great takeaway from the session. And me and all the other speakers will be very glad to have to see your learnings be implemented in your life. And if you have more questions, you can follow and connect with all the speakers, and I'm going to drop the links of all the LinkedIn channels and also YouTube channels in the chat. You can just go ahead and quickly follow and connect with them. I'm sure Apurv, Kiran, and also Rishabh, Tapas, and everyone will be glad to connect with you and help you guys with anything that you're feeling challenges within, anything that you want to help with. Yeah. If you're exploring career opportunities, Recro is hiring passionate developers. Do check out the current openings at Recro, called recro.io/careers at Recro's page. And if your colleague or friends or any family member is looking for job openings, and we'll make sure that we place them in the top great startups of the country. To stay updated with such events, follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and also on Instagram. And stay updated with some talks like this. We have very regular talks on tech discussions. We bring amazing panel like the one today we had. And do not miss on Recro Talks. And we'll be more than glad to see your learnings upskill from here. Yeah. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for taking out time on weekend. Thank you once again, Kiran, Apurv, and Rishabh for moderating the whole session very effortlessly, and all the participants who has actually stayed with us for entire 1.5 session. I know it's really hard at the weekends mainly to take your time and sit down for catering for the learning, which we really appreciate, and that's the exact attitude and courage that we really appreciate in the community too. So yeah, once again, happy weekend, guys. Have a great and safe weekend. Be with your family, and thank you once again. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.